In example 3, we're going to classify the following triangles by sides and angles. It doesn't matter which one you put first, although I kind of prefer a certain way that I think sounds a little better, but that's all it is really. So let's take a look at this triangle, and we can see here that we've got a right angle, and all three sides are different. So I'm going to put right scalene. So for some reason to me, it seems to flow better if we do the angle, classify the triangle by angle and then side, but scalene right would not be wrong. Here we have two congruent sides, so we know it's isosceles, and then we have one obtuse angle, 112 degrees. So this one will be obtuse, and then of course the two congruent sides, we would name that isosceles. The first example on the lower left hand side of the page, we have two sides that are congruent. So again, we're at an isosceles. We'd like to figure out the measure of this angle here. So to figure out that measure, we could add 68 and 48. That would be 116. And then we could take 180 and subtract 116, and that would be 64 degrees. So this angle right here would be 64 degrees. Now this doesn't really make too much sense because according to the angle side theorem, we would state here that in a triangle that this angle would be congruent to that angle because the sides are congruent and the angles opposite would be congruent. This is not an actual triangle, but and you could look at this a little differently too. You could make that 68 using that kind of thinking. But even if you do, it's 64 or 68, either one. This one is going to be, well, there's all three acute angles, so it'll be acute, and then two of the sides are the same, so this will be an acute isosceles. Looking at the last part of this example, we have a triangle with all three different sides, so that's scalene, and then we can look here and we can see that those angles are all lower than 90, and so we would call this acute. When the triangle has all three acute angles, we call the triangle acute, and then of course we said all three sides were different, so this will be an acute scalene.